Welcome back from that commercial break. Here we are. This is Family Hour, and we are looking at fostering ethical excellence by nurturing moral development in schools because we realize that if you started this show with us, according to what we came to realize, students spend a lot of time at school. Actually, they spend 3 quarters of the year at school.
That's true.
It's only a quarter they spend with the parents. That is why it is important that while you do you take up your role as a parent, the schools should as well take up their role in fostering ethical and moral excellence. But Canon, we want to look at now ethical dilemmas and conflicts that may arise among students. How can they be addressed in a school setting so that at the end of it all, it doesn't look as a compromise? Mm.
I will borrow a leaf from one of our known spiritual fathers. He always said one thing: if you do it right, you get it right. If you get it right, it will always be all right. But most importantly, right is right and wrong is wrong. And there is no gray area. Yeah? For example, if you pick something that does not belong to you, it should be known as theft. Right? You've taken something that doesn't belong to you. The person has not given you permission to pick what does not belong to you. You shouldn't give it some other name. Oh, I was helping myself, or I was doing this. No, you have stolen. Right? So there are things that people, or maybe if a child stands up to a teacher disrespectfully, that's insolence, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes. So when some of these things happen in school, it is to help a child. That's a major dilemma. And I'll give an example of one of my students. He came to school and he was actually, we are admitting him. And the mother had already given us the background and the story, I have this issue and so on. And what should I do? He said, no, let me talk to the child. Now, in the process of having a conversation with the child and the mother is trying to explain herself, this child rises up to the mother and says, I told you never to speak to me like that or to speak about me like that. Now you know that if you have such a student in your space, if they can talk like that to their mother, they will definitely talk like that to any teacher. Right?
Yeah.
So you need to put that behavior right
On the
spot.
And the mother.
Without
And
hesitation.
as a mother, without hesitation, without compromise, right? So when it comes to those dilemmas in school, students, our children should know that if it is right, it is right. You just mentioned when a teacher told you, if that bell sounds, you'll find me at that door.
Yeah.
So if it's about keeping time, nobody's going to excuse you that you are about that probably something happened and you failed to keep time. You can give the apologies. Apologies can be accepted. Yeah? But you have not kept time and that's it, isn't it? Huh? So for me, when it comes to the dilemmas, moral dilemmas within society, let's brand them. Let's give them the right name. Let's not, have excuses. I'll just give an example. A friend of mine, I attended a leadership course, no excuse leader. But a friend of mine, they went for a burial. The whole team went for a burial, right? And when they went for this burial, they came back. And he said he was delayed because he had gone for a burial. He didn't know that quite a number of people in that room had actually attended that burial. So he comes with an excuse, yet everybody had managed their time well and they were in that room on time, isn't it? So when it comes to these dilemmas, let's not allow our children to have excuses. Or, like when we have parents who talk about a child and they allude to an auntie who was a very, very tough woman.
Yeah.
Even this child, So some of us have encouraged certain behavior because of the way we've spoken to these children. But for me, dealing with moral dilemmas, when it is wrong, it is wrong.
I wanted to say something
Yes.
in addition to that. And I believe that many of our parents guilty of this.
Mm.
Many parents are protecting their children's bad behavior, and they will give all excuses. I have seen it in several settings when they think that between them and you, it's not so bad.
Mm.
What she did is not so bad.
Mm.
What he did is not so bad.
Mm.
But surely you can excuse that.
Mm.
That means that you are not helping this child to develop into a disciplined person.
Mm.
So I have seen parents who protect their children even when they have brought them in a setting where they're supposed to be nurtured and guided and cultured. I know that there will be parents listening in there, and there will be a big debate on, but what is the limit? Maybe some schools are too harsh. Maybe some. If you want your child to develop into somebody who is organized and disciplined, and you have allowed yourself to bring them, I'm sorry we are using this continuous example of Namagoma. You have allowed yourself to bring them to Namagoma. Abide by what Namagoma says. Don't want them to bend their rules to suit your single child, because a lot of children influence other children. A lot of students influence other students. So when we see that this child's behavior, one, is condoned by the parent, two, they are not willing to change, then that is when they are encouraged to go and try their talents elsewhere. So I believe that even as parents, she said it at the beginning, let's partner with the schools that we have taken our children to ensure that our children, our pupils, our students follow through, including when we get to university level. There's a time that I was on a board of a very big school, and the parent that one parent was also a board member, and the name of their child came up on the list of children who were indisciplined. This parent asked to be excused from the board meeting. He stepped out as we discussed his child. And the verdict in that room was that the boy would get an indefinite suspension. And the father did not in any way say, no, but you should give special consideration. Say, I'm also a board member. But when the child was committing that atrocity or whatever, he kept telling his friends, my father is a board member, so for me I'm safe. I can do anything I want to do. As those students watched him pack his bags and leave, his father helped him to go home. But he was a board member. So I respected that parent very, very much, because I believed he honored the school more than his child. And he must have taught him that lesson alone should last them a lifetime. So parents, even as we are in our own spaces, let's endeavor. If somebody, in Luganda we have a saying, if somebody is helping you to train and nurture your child, can you be a good participant and do as well?
Wow, now that brings us to now something to do with honesty, integrity, but also empathy. From the example Mrs. Chintu has just given, the father is a board member, but he just lets the son be expelled. And everyone will say, so at some time, people are forced to compromise in the name of empathy. But Canon, what is, how should the real empathy be, and how can schools create the culture that promotes honesty, integrity, and this empathy among students without compromise?
Now that's a very, very interesting question. I think that parent was the most empathetic parent.
Exactly.
He was the most empathetic parent, allowing himself and his own child to go through that. Because, like Mrs. Chintu was saying, that was a lesson for a lifetime. Children should get into that space and knowledge that in the event that my parent is not here, what am I capable of doing? How can I be a stand alone? How can I get out of my parents' shadow and still shine? Because many of our children are riding on their parents' time, which is in error.
Yes.
It is very erroneous for a parent to think that they're going to be here for a lifetime to protect their children. That is one. Two, to always remember that this child is with you for a limited time. Supposedly. Because I hear these days we have children who are 35, 40, 45 who are still in their parents' homes. I hear. But you know that by 25, yeah, most of the children have a deep desire to carve out their life for themselves. They come and propose to you, even if they're still in their own, in your abode, they'll come and tell, Mommy, I want to do a master's. Mommy, it means that they have started planning for their lives, right? So if they've been with you for the first 25 years of their lives, and they're going to live to be 100, for heaven's sake, it is 75 years.
Yes.
They had better be well prepared for the 75,
For the decision making.
for the decision making,
For the critical
for
thinking.
the critical thinking, for the resilience, for the hard work, for everything, for the honesty, for the integrity. You know, it should be their responsibility now. Now we have what I started with, the train up a child in the way. And the way is what defines your adult. And I always ask myself, as we are protecting these children, do we ever sit back and ask our questions? Oh, wait a minute. What will my son be like when they're 45? But this child is 10 years. Do you ever paint that picture for yourself? That at 45, they said them they should have accomplished this, they should have accomplished. That means it informs the way.
Yes.
It informs the way that you're going to carve out for them. So that parent carved out the best way. He empathized with the child's future and said, you'd rather live now than later,
Yes.
so that you can be able to do the right thing.
Pick up the lesson.
Pick up the lesson, right? So when it comes to empathy, when it comes to honesty, when it comes to integrity, it starts with us as parents. It starts with us as adults. We have to be very intentional and consistent, right? And I'll give my own example. One time, during COVID, of course, we didn't have money and so on. But I always tell my children that when you ask me for something and I say yes, I will do it. Now I was half asleep. And at that time, everything was coming from Jumia. Jumia was, and they wanted something from Jumia. And I didn't know that. Of course, I had no idea what they were talking about. They said, Mommy, can you buy this for us? I was half asleep and I said yes. And they clapped and said, Mommy, when Mommy says yes, it's done. I paid. So when it comes to integrity, when it comes to honesty, when it comes to all these things, even if I want to teach my own child resilience, it should be intentional. And they can learn this from anything. For example, they will call you and say, Mommy, you have 2 weeks to go. Yeah, they have 2 weeks to go for to come back home for their holidays. And they're asking for pocket money. I said, no. Feed on the school food until the end of the. And I'll tell you, as you say that, it is painful. I said, really? Even for you, the parent, you say,
feel
really?
bad.
You feel bad. I said, but it's good for them. If in the event that my calendar is done, these children will survive. So these are the things, but we have to be very intentional and also consistent. You do it for one child, do it for the other. Do it for your neighbor's child, do it for your sister's child. Because at the end, that is the community that they're going to be working with. So if Adrian's child has integrity, Christian, we have a community where we all speak integrity, honesty,
The same language.
Wow.
Empathy does not mean that you have to do everything your child wants because you are feeling for them. It also requires that you look at further ahead. How is this thing going to affect in the future? If you are allowing your child to steal your pen, if I am allowing my child, I see him stealing your pen, and then I even assist them to put it in my bag, that means I'm promoting bad behavior and I'm not helping them. Eventually, when they get caught in a bigger scam, and they are participants in that scam, I will not feel, oh, I feel sorry for myself because I helped them with their bad behavior. So when we are trying to be empathetic, there's been pain as parents. Sometimes you say no to something and you really feel, if I had my way, I'd just say yes to everything. But that is not the way you're going to bring them up with moral behavior. You're going to have to even bear that pain so that you turn out a good child.
How can, or what strategies can now educators or schools use to teach ethical decision making and critical thinking skills?
By creating scenarios.
Okay.
You see, you have school space and people are with you day and night. So create scenarios where you allow a given group to make a decision without you giving your input. You say, I have tasked you to ensure that this room becomes brighter. Yes, you will do it with supervision. You stand aside, watch them, see where they're making mistakes. Also pick up one of them and ask them, you be an observer and pick up the mistakes that are being made so that when you come back to evaluate the situation. This is what we needed. We needed to brighten the room. What happened? Where was the argument? Who did not listen to the other? Why was so and so overbearing? What could we do next time? You create those scenarios for them and they are able to see the analysis properly. They say, yes, Christine was overbearing. She kept commanding us and shouting on top of her voice. Yes, Adrian was too quiet and he didn't even touch anything. Yes, so and so did a lot of team playing and they were very helpful. All those are helping. That scenario that you have created has helped them to learn, this is how we make decisions, this is how we think critically, and you create those scenarios at all times, in the game, in the sports grounds, in the dining room, in the chapel. Give them roles, give them responsibilities. Don't be a one man does it all. You can't be, in Luganda we have a saying, go kube ngoma, ate gwozi na ate gwoyimba. You can't do that. Now the reason why these children are in your face, so that you teach them the art of responsibility. Give them bits and pieces at a time. And as they develop their responsibility, give them bigger responsibilities. It will work magically.
Wow. Before I cross back to Canon, I see our time is running out. What would be your parting shots on this topic?
My parting shots. Because I said at the beginning that I'm not a teacher, I feel very, very strongly that parents need to play the game properly. Be participants in what the school is trying to do for your child, in what the school is trying to do for the student, in what the school is trying to do for the pupil. Be a keen participant. Show interest. Don't think that your money does it all. Please be a good participant.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Finn. Canon, your submission, I realized you wanted to have a supplement on what she was saying, but supplement and then after the supplement you give us your parting shots as well.
What I would want to just supplement on what she was saying, creating scenarios, is like all schools have school values. And let me tell you, it cuts across. For example, in every school that you go to, irrespective of the religious affiliation, godliness is key. So why isn't it that there is the fear of God, you know, in our spaces, isn't it? And, you know, many of us have had this. So let those values let them get off the page and translate into action. Right? So if you're saying that the value is godliness, what are you doing to instill godliness? If your value is integrity, what are you doing to instill godliness? So other than just putting it up there and it's a beautiful, you know, writing on the wall, let it be translated into action, and those are the scenarios she spoke about. My parting shots would be that whatever we choose to do with our children, when it comes to moral excellency or moral development, let's be very intentional but also consistent. I will just anchor, I've forgotten the right, but one of the rest said that it takes 10,000 hours to consolidate, a habit. 10,000 hours, it's 10 years.
Yeah.
So if a child starts, that's what she was saying, that when you see a child from boarding school, primary boarding school, who is in high school, they already speak. Their levels are higher. Because now it is 7 years and they are compounding the same habit. So when they get into high school, they feel like, I'm just adding on to what I know. I'm building on to what I know, and this is why. Because before you know it, they have already informed you of the persons that they are. So you talked about, is it possible to transform a person? Yes. As an adult, it's hard work. A child, please get down and do the job. Start now. It is 10,000 hours to consolidate a great habit.
Wow, thank you so much, Canon. Thank you so much, Mrs. Chintu. And thank you so much, you, our viewer. We are grateful. I believe this has been a very rich discussion. And I believe it has impacted you and your family altogether. Don't be selfish. Share the YouTube link to your other friends, your other colleagues, your workmates, so that they can as well benefit, or they can share the knowledge that we have had on this platform. Edwin Austin Mukalazi is my name, and we have come to the end of this show. I've worked with Brinko, Norman, and very many other people out there that you'll never see, but they are the reason you have this image wherever you're watching us from. And from the entire team, it's a good night.
Good night.
Night.